So I have Kate from wonderking&co with me today on Simply Happy Conversations. She is a social worker for mental health for children, families, and also professional health workers. So welcome, Kate.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to hearing about all the work that you do. Maybe start with things that you like to do in your free time.
Some of the things I like to do in my free time, I love cooking for the family and friends, and walking with friends. I cut a few laps of the eastern gardens as well. I love camping with my family when we're able to get out and about, and really make a lot of time for resting and listening to music when I'm trying to wind down.
Yeah. What sort of cooking? What's your favourite type of cooking?
I do like making the odd birthday cake, but mostly just big family meals where everybody can enjoy something.
Yeah. So you like the sweet cooking though.
I don't mind sweet cooking. If I'm eating for myself, then I prefer to put on a lovely big lunch, lots of Italian things to pick on, and soup and breads and things like that. But I get so much enjoyment out of making the kids' birthday cakes, because they get so much enjoyment out of picking them, and then it's a surprise in the morning when I've done all the icing and they come out and see it, and then even more excitement when they've got their friends over.
Yeah. I know where I'm going to next to get my cakes made. Have you seen Hamish Blake's birthday cakes?
Oh, I've seen one or two. Yeah, there's some great ones around. Yeah.
Is it that level, or it's more the cake?
No, it's like just the Woman's Weekly ones, pretty much. I think I had that tradition when I was little with Mum, and I remembered really enjoying it. So I think we've carried on that little family tradition when the kids just as fun out of it.
I know my kids love flicking through that book as well and choosing the next birthday cake.
Yeah.
So tell us about the business and how you started it and why.
I suppose, well, I've been in the industry for about 20 years now, and I've worked in Melbourne and across in Scotland for 13 years, and we came back to Australia 5 years ago, and I had the idea of that's where I wanted to go before we left Aberdeen. And when I got back, I was lucky enough to be given two opportunities, one down the forensic pathway and the other down the children and families pathway. And I decided, I really want to open my own private practice one day, so I'm going to go down the children and families pathway. So I've spent a very fortunate 5 years at MacKillop learning, right in the thick of it, and being immersed with so much learning and experience that I felt very equipped to take that next step and that leap of faith within myself to venture into opening wonderking&co. Wonderking&co is kind of like a combination of all the types of therapy that I like doing, very experiential. So there's play, and there's cooking, and there's some brief interventions, some more technical, trauma-informed interventions as well. So it's a great little toolbox to help support anybody who can come through the door, and I'm willing to give it a good go. I'm delighted to be able to hear and get here, in such I think COVID was a time when, we were really contemplating what we were going to do next, and what we were, prioritising how we wanted to spend our time. And I just thought, I'm ready, I'm going to do it. I wanted to do it by 5 years back in Australia anyway. So I kind of pushed myself to get up and running and ready to go.
So maybe tell us a little bit more about the services, especially the trauma ones, and how it might help the listeners to support their own children.
Yes. I do a lot of work with treating attachment pathology. So that's looking at the relationship dynamics between young people and their carers, whether that's a biological parent or a foster parent or an adoptive parent. and really trying to strengthen that connection. If we can do that, we can get a lot more safety into that relationship. And from there, we have a great platform to be able to do more in-depth, longer-term support. So a little bit of acceptance and commitment therapy as well, and that helps me kind of understand, all the different things that are showing up or that the clients are experiencing, from an emotional level to our cognitions, to behaviourally, how our behaviour's changing, our moods, all of those internal sensory receptors within our body, our automatic things as well that are showing up, to really unpack and look what's going on there and try and allocate and work out the functions to why those are showing up at that particular time. And then we kind of progress into some different, dependent on different ages, but just introduced Theraplay, which is an attachment-based play therapy to do with parents or carers and young people. So this would be particularly helpful if we need to moderate the window of tolerance. So if a young person's got some behavioural difficulties or emotional distress, or find it really hard to engage with other young people or concentrate for a certain period of time, we can access that emotional part of the brain through play, compared to, say, a talking therapy, which would stay in the cognitive part of the brain. So we can upregulate and downregulate certain activities to increase the young person's exposure to different types of things, and then that helps widen their window of tolerance to be able to manage in a safer place, and then we'd extend that to other parts of their communities, so whether it's the kindergarten, school, more in the family home. So that's been really fun, and I've had some great fun with some NDIS young people and their parents with that. I also do a bit of EMDR, which is the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is one of the top 2 trauma treatments. This is a later stage, so a phase 2 trauma treatment. So once we've got that stable platform, once people have got a stabilization strategy in place and quite a good self-care plan in place, and are able to recognise and articulate some of the different symptoms and attributes that are showing up as a result of their mental health and particular stressors. And then once we are able to identify all of that, then we'll kind of pull out some memory networks and look at certain cognitions that are attached to that, and do some bilateral brain stimulation, the fingers or a wand, or moving the eyes back and forth, to try and remove some of the unneeded information that's still being held up in those neuro pathways, and replace it with some more adaptive information that has occurred since that particular time.
So it's all very hands-on therapy, like Yeah,
it's very technical. It sounds very technical, but very gentle at guiding people through the process and supporting them along the way. So if they're, at a stage, and it takes time for people to be ready to receive trauma treatment. So it's a big thing to go through, and it's very draining and emotionally draining. And so, but, when people are ready, then we're here to help. And a lot of it is around that relational connection with the therapist as well. So I make a big effort to make sure we've got an inviting space here. It doesn't feel too clinical. It feels quite homely. And, to answer any questions and, be very transparent with, the recommendations or the steps that we need to get to the next step along that healing journey.
And so what sort of age do you generally work with?
It's a real mix. Mm-hmm. So I work with, the Theraplay and is more tailored towards younger children, but it can be used for children in their teens as well. My age group that I work with, most of the be around 3, 4 to 10. And then stabilization strategies and self-care plans for absolutely everybody. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too young to start learning about emotional intelligence and how to put in a trauma-informed stabilization strategy to, support you in the moment if things are quite distressing, and then a self-care plan to help you identify what your baseline is when you're okay. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What is your thinking like? What is showing up in your body then? What's happening when you move from one of your environmental domains into the other? To mapping out a baseline about what it looks like when you're, impacted by something, whether it's stress or grief or anxiety. So how you change within all those different domains within yourself when you're impacted, and then what are some trauma-informed strategies to help bring yourself back down. By identifying it, we've got agencies, so we know what that looks like, we know what that feels like, we can put in plans to let other people know how to help us in those situations, because sometimes when we're impacted or overwhelmed by something, we don't necessarily recognise that within ourselves, so we need some other people to help us say, hey, are you okay? What can I do to help? So yeah, we get a big robust plan in around that, and that's for all age groups.
Yeah. Maybe just share with us, and do Bear and Cannibal, how they are part of the process as well. But even just the little kids, what are some of the things that you do with them?
Yeah. Because therapy can be quite anxiety for all ages, to come in and meet somebody new and talk about really vulnerable things. It's a big ask for people. So I try to give as much information around the process as possible. And that's why we've got the things like the website and the Instagram, so people can get a bit of an understanding about the flavour of the work that I do here. But we also do little welcoming things for our maybe some of our clients that are a bit resistant or a bit anxious about coming. So sometimes I might put one of the little teddies out on the door that's written a note to a little young person saying that they're looking forward to meeting them. And then when they come in, they've got a little security toy with them. Sometimes we make different games up. So I might put some stepping stones outside, and, the kids have to, follow the little stepping stones to get into the therapy room, just something that's going to reduce the anxiety and take that little bit of the pressure off. Sometimes we use the animals. We've got Cannibal, a gorgeous little bunny. He needs to be spayed, but will be a little bit more therapeutic, I think, after that. He's going through a little bit of a feisty stage at the moment. And Bear is a very relaxed dog, so he's very calming, and there's some sensory elements to having the pets around as well. So it can just take the pressure off that interpersonal, expectation initially from having to talk about, vulnerable things, that we can have time to develop some rapport, or the shared interest, or, there's a third animal in the room, it can help ease that into that relationship and into the dynamic.
Yeah, amazing. Pets are just amazing. Animals are really amazing at helping children to, just relax and let go of all that anxiety.
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe share with us your top tips around nurturing mental health, maybe the parents, because like I've seen on your Instagram page, kids learn from how we respond to things, so they mirror our responses. So it's really important for us to be looking after our mental health for our own children.
Yeah, they not only mirror our responses, but they mirror our regulation. So if we're regulated, then the children are more likely to be regulated as well, and that goes back to when the children are in mum's tum and listening to our heartbeat and co-regulating in that way. So if we as parents or adults can learn some different strategies to help regulate ourselves in the moment with the kids. I think we've all got times when we can, take ourselves away and have a little cry or scream or whatever. But when we're in the moment with the kids and responding to them and listening to them and trying to problem solve whatever is showing up, then I think the biggest thing I think people can do is just really pay attention to what's showing up in them. So, I do a lot of work around emotional intelligence development, and I think being able to articulate and have a place in the house where you can, identify different emotions and use that as a bit of a resource to check in with each other about how we're going. Are we happy? Are we sad? Are we being silly? Are we stressed? Or just getting that dialogues going is really helpful, because if we can identify it within ourselves and we know where that's in our body, then we're one step closer to having some insight into what's going on as well. And every emotion shows up for a really valid reason, whether it's a glug in the throat that we've done something that we maybe shouldn't, or we're feeling a bit of guilt, or sadness because we've lost somebody close to us, or we can't see people at the moment, isolated. There's all these emotions and the feelings and thoughts attached. They're all showing up for a reason, and they want us to do something, respond to ourselves in a certain way, or respond to a situation. So I think making the time to really identify why that's showing up, and either say, just, hi, thanks for showing up. I know that I can't do that right now, but we're going to get back to you, and not try and avoid or suppress or reject things that are showing up within ourselves, because if we do that, then we get what I like to call residual emotion. It's like a snowball effect, and it's going to escalate and maybe come out in other forms, whether that's a ruminating brain and thoughts going around your head, or a little bit more irritable about something, or takes you away from the person that you want to be or the life that you want to lead. So yeah, being really mindful about what's showing up, and finding a way to work through that, knowing your triggers, knowing your symptoms, being mindful of your thoughts, and not all of our thoughts are facts. We've got a number of different voices driving our thoughts, and they come into play at different times. So we just need to be mindful about, which voice we're listening to and why. And it's very hard to do that if you're caught up, being overwhelmed by something. So that's why we need to, keep working on your support networks as well, and slowing down. I think that's a big thing at the moment, and I think we're being forced to do that in one way with COVID, but, it's creating other pressures as well. So it's just, I think it's important to slow down and realise that we're in a really difficult situation at the moment, and everybody's doing the best that they can. And as are, lots of mums and families who are, working and homeschooling and, still being a parent. So
yeah.
Life's tricky at the moment.
It is. And then there are people who actually do have that extra time of,
yes,
but in the others, they've got that financial stress because maybe they're not working too. So everyone has some sort of stress from this, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And just trying to prioritise some of the things in life that are really important to you. So you are filling your bucket up, as well, as much as you can during these times.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful point. So I especially love the one about having the emotions, or even a display of some kind for children who cannot express their emotions, so that you're linking back to them with your own as well. And it's a great reminder for ourselves as well to use that language, isn't it?
Yep. There's some great resources around, but I think I've got one on the Insta page that I did maybe a couple of years ago with Eliza, where we just went to Bunnings like this, but we got all the paint cards, and we put a bit of masking tape down the back, and we identified a colour, different colour to the different emotion, and we put it down like almost like a thermometer. And then we've got just some pegs on the side. So we've got that sticking up in our kitchen area, you know, and we used to do it a bit more frequently, but we do it now. How are you feeling today? And, you know, they run up and get their peg and put it on their card, and it gives you a bit of insight into what they're thinking and what they might be feeling as well, and starts a conversation.
Definitely. And I think that schools do that really well. They come into the classroom and they have that there. So it's sort of bringing that back and putting it into our homes as well to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah. And there's also some great emotional colour wheels on the internet as well. They're great. They've got so many different, you know, emotions that, you know, I even haven't heard of some of them or use some of them frequently. Like, there's so many out there. And you can get really creative. Like, you've got a giant Jenga set with some different emotions on it as well. So there's lots of different, I think Richard Rose has got a number of different games that you can play with Jenga, which is all around emotional intelligence.
Oh, they're beautiful. Oh, thanks for sharing those too, those resources. So if people want to connect with you, and you do post some great information on your Instagram page, that are great resources for parents to anyone to really go and connect with, how can they find you?
Well, we've got our website out now, so that's at www.wonderking&co.com, and I think I don't know whether you can share that as well, Narelle.
Yeah, I will.
And the Insta page as well. Like, I am not a technological expert, so I'm just trying to put things up there that are a little bit thought-provoking or helpful for people that might be reading as well. There's nothing fancy there.
No, but you do. You've really thought about the content that's going out there, that's sharing, and it's very meaningful and impactful. So it's great to keep it. Oh, thank you so much, Kate, for your time. And and I look forward to sharing the links as well in the show notes for everyone. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.